All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being with us. My goodness, it is now days before Christmas, which means, it's the 22nd, right? So we're just 3 days away from celebrating Christmas, which by my count means that it is now time for the men to start shopping. You may begin your shopping now if you want. We got a great show for you. America Fest was this weekend, and to say it was just a tame, normal event, I definitely can't say that. Accusations back and forth, whether Ben Shapiro, whether Tucker Carlson, whether Steve Bannon. But what we will say is that J.D. Vance last night seemed to call for unity and did a really, really good job and is now, according to polls, the vast front runner to continue whatever MAGA is, whatever MAGA is going to become. We're going to talk about that and much, much more. A very Merry Christmas to everybody out there. The show starts right now.
The Paul Harrell Program.
All right, folks, and as always, or once again, we've got back with us my co-host, Rob Spencer.
Yeah, unfortunately not as always because it's just been a rough couple of weeks.
That busy
recently.
season.
Yeah, so it's been tough. But, you sound terrible,
Okay.
Paul, and it's
No, you can say that.
You're just raspy, man. You're just raspy about it because
I had the flu or COVID or whatever last Wednesday.
Yeah, so for frequent watchers of the show, so we've got a little bit of a group text here where it's like Paul, myself, and Eric, who is often on the show, and Paul's like, hey, I tested positive for flu/COVID, whatever you want to call it here at this point, and he's like, I don't feel so great or whatever, so we're not going to do the show today. And then the next day, he's like, well, I woke up and I had to change my sheets because I was sweating all this stuff or whatever, and he's like, I feel fine if you want to do the show. I was like, you know what? I'm good. I'm good. I'm not going to go into that.
I mean, I think we're all in the clear now in terms of being contagious. But
Sure.
yeah, I didn't want to ruin anyone's holiday. That's for sure.
For sure.
Because I was looking at the timeline and I was like, if I expose somebody, their Christmas with their kids, could easily be ruined.
Well, that's true. Yeah, and it's unfortunately what it hit is like flu hit. And apparently it's a pretty nasty strain of flu, and so it's hitting right as all of us are getting together for holidays, and then, you're like, well, it's not Christmas yet. Well, how many people, including us, and I'm sure you as well, Paul, are celebrating the holiday because you've got split families, you're like, we're going to do this on the 20th and we're going to do this on the 17th and all that stuff. And so we're dealing with that where, it's just, we're all together and it's getting worse, So.
Yeah. And we've got record breaking temperatures for this time of year. So it's not like my daughter woke up this morning and was like, has it snowed yet? And I'm like, well, no, it's not going to snow. Not this Christmas. It's not going to be. That's just not. That's not going to happen. So, it's just interesting how you think. Little kids think, hey, well, it's Christmas. We've been watching all these Christmas movies, and so of course there's going to be snow literally any second. So, I had your mic muted. If you had another sneeze,
I'm struggling with the sneeze here as we talk about illness here. It's just. Just tis the season.
Tis the season. So, speaking of the season, America Fest was this past weekend. Yeah. Obviously, the first America Fest without Charlie Kirk. It was it really kind of got off to a huge, controversial. I mean, I don't know, where were you when? Because all I saw was for the 24 hours after Ben Shapiro's speech.
Yeah.
It was, to me, I've never seen anything more of a coordinated op to try to divorce, essentially, Tucker Carlson from, the conservative MAGA America First movement. I mean, it was just, everybody was like just dunking on Tucker, but then I went and watched Tucker's speech and Shapiro's speech, and I thought, well, I just have a completely different opinion than what was in my Twitter feed anyway. I don't know what your thoughts were.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of experienced the same thing. And so what you'll have is you'll have some Tucker loyalists and you'll have some Ben Shapiro loyalists. And Ben Shapiro was one of my favorite first conservatives to just really latch on it, because I latch on to talented people and intelligent people. And it's because I consider myself to not be very smart and not very talented. Now, that's not self-deprecating. That's just me realizing, like, okay, well, if you were to measure my IQ, I'm probably going to fall right in the average here. And I've got some talent in some things and some, whatever. So you've got these incredibly intelligent and talented individuals in the conservative movement, as opposed to what do you see on the left? The inability to make a constructive argument, the inability to articulate a rational point without getting frustrated and saying you're racist, you're evil, you're Hitler, all of these things. And so what our conservatives here are struggling, because we're sort of torn between these two things. And I didn't think either one of them, I feel like you did. I didn't feel like either one of them went at each other so hard that it was like, okay, you've been excommunicated here. Right, like but that's what was happening.
I feel like there was a lot of unspoken, I feel like with Shapiro's speech, just his issue is, look, there's people now questioning whether or not, funding for Israel or total 100% support for Israel. Like that to me is Shapiro's big issue that he didn't really even address. Like that's the elephant in the room, is that because you just listen to the kids. These are kids at America Fest, and listen to their questions, and they're having questions about essentially what has kind of been the foreign policy, non-negotiable foreign policy bedrock that's just driven us being in wars for my entire life, essentially my entire adult life. And now that's being questioned. It seems like that's really the main issue that I think Shapiro avoided. But it was just, but then the next night you had Steve Bannon come out there and just, he just went straight at Shapiro and attacked him. And it was certainly entertaining. But the thing is, I think it's interesting because, Shapiro, I think he used to have a lot of credibility that he no longer has, personally. That's just my opinion. I think when he told everybody, called us dopes for not getting the vaccine, get the vaccine, you dopes, he was on the wrong issue. He was on the wrong side of the Covington kids. You remember remember that? He was on the wrong side of that. Just, calling those kids racist, or the mainstream media was calling them racist, all because of a smirk, when it was all totally a setup and everything else. And then we now find out that Facebook was boosting, when Facebook was essentially, Shapiro or the Daily Wire or whoever, were paying, to get their content boosted. At the same time, Zuckerberg is censoring all of his competition. Right. I mean, that's all now kind of out there in public record. And so,
well, and to your point, Paul, and are we? Well, let me just say it like this. So Ben Shapiro is a strong, meaningful voice for the conservative movement, but there are others who I think
it's a coalition.
Yeah, I think Tucker's a little kooky on some stuff, and it may be because of his laugh, Yeah, it's a little bit much.
I see, but I find Tucker for the most part genuine, and I think that's. Right. But go ahead.
But Ben's unapologetic, 100% Israel is infallible. Like that support speaks volumes to his religion, right? Like,
of course,
because obviously he's Jewish and he's unapologetic about that. So your faith is that strong. Okay, great. But did we do anything wrong after October 7th? Did we do anything because it started with the Candace Owens, and it started there's been and now he's going after Megyn Kelly even. Yeah. And I'm like, look, I consider you're a little further right than I am. I'm a little probably closer to the center on some stuff. Megan's my jam, because I agree with her more times than I disagree with her. Yeah. And that's very rare for conservatives, because we are not
a monolith.
Yes, to borrow a Joe Biden term, we're not a monolith, right?
Yeah.
So the conservatives are inclined to disagree, and so I'm like, Ben Shapiro is lighting a fire on all of these strong conservative people, right? These strong conservative voices
Who have seen their influence really grow in the last 2 years.
Correct, right? Tucker blew up when he left Fox News,
Yep.
right? And with 252 million views
Yep.
on the interview with Trump. But so we saw that. Like, I get that Ben is an unapologetic Jew, and he is not going to apologize for that, right? If you're unapologetic, you're not going to apologize. But to look at it analytically and say, okay, you know what? I value Megyn Kelly's opinion about things. I value Tucker Carlson's opinion about things. I value Steve Bannon in a certain sense, his opinion on things.
You can chew up the meat and spit out the bones. I don't agree with everything that everybody says, but I agree with a lot of what they say.
But what is Ben's position? I'm right, everybody else is wrong. Mm-hmm. If you disagree with me, you are wrong. And I'm like, that's not where we are, man.
Yeah, it colored the beginning of the whole event was colored that way. And there's actually a pretty funny Anchorman meme that's been thrown around. Watch this. So you've got Megyn Kelly, Michael. Steve Bannon just throw Ben Shapiro through a window.
Women propaganda. Okay, it's on fire.
I'm gonna straight up murder your ass. Now I'll be number one. No, you won't!
Boy, that escalated quickly.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's pretty good.
Whoa, you can't stop it there. Play the.
I don't know what
You
it
gotta,
was. Oh no, that was it. That's the end of it.
that was. I mean, that really got out of hand.
Yeah.
That's his next line.
That turning
That's his
point
next
staff. Oh man, I think that was very. I think that was really good. That's been making the rounds. Somebody sent it to me. I thought that was really funny. What do you think about there's a lot of people that were saying this is really the blow up that happened, or Shapiro doing what he did, and was really more kind of like a proxy war, trying to maybe him Vance versus DeSantis, because there's still a lot of people who are in that DeSantis camp
including Shapiro, who he was a pro DeSantis,
and that this is in a way because I'll tell you one thing, what JD Vance did last night was a big deal towards unity, calling for unity, arguing that America, the foundation of America is Christian. Listen.
Time I can recount. People are talking about American identity and figuring out what it is that unites us. But I want to say something here. The only thing that has truly served as an anchor of the United States of America is that we have been, and by the grace of God, we always will be a Christian nation.
And then the thunderous applause.
Text VP to 45470 for updates from the White House. Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you know what that is? That's the creation of a database.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is to further add to their database because, he's no more than – he's a little over a year away.
Yeah.
Realistically, after the midterms, it's going to be –
He's running for president.
That's where it's going to be. He's not. You can't. Because the declarations has to happen. All of that stuff. I can't imagine who's going to jump in against him. The only sort of hook to hang your hat on whatsoever is the unpopularity of some of Trump's stuff. Mm-hmm. Right, and we've seen that on the conservative side with the Epstein files and how he's handled certain things, especially the the Rob Reiner You know, even Eric disagreed with me. You know,
well, you were out all last week, and then I got sick, so we never got
to talk about
we
it.
kept saving that for you because we were like, man, Rob's really fired up about the Rob Reiner tweet or the Truth Social.
Rob Spencer was fired up about it, and I just said, I just read it, and I was like, man, this is not it. It's not it. That would have been a time for. I mean, you look back at everything that Rob Reiner has said, and I'm not trying to, you know, like go back to all of this stuff, but if you look up at everything that calling him a fascist and equating him to Hitler and all of this stuff, I don't think Rob Reiner would have had a similar post had Trump been killed in Butler.
Oh, I think he totally would have.
No, I disagree. I think he would have said. I think he would have said something like, "This is not." I mean, you saw the interview that was played after Charlie Kirk's assassination.
Yeah,
Rob
I did see
Reiner came
that.
out. It was very. He's like, "This is not it, man. This is not it." So Rob Reiner spoke stuff and tweeted stuff and hated Trump. That way, he didn't mince any words there. But damn, man, like, are we that? Are we as bad as the left?
I'm not saying I liked the post or anything. Like, I thought it was good. It was just kind of one of those things. Well, that's who he is, you know.
Well, just because we disagree with somebody, it doesn't mean we should piss on their grave. And unfortunately, that's what it looked like. Was the president of the United States was completely urinating on the grave of Rob Reiner, who him and his wife had their throats slit.
I know.
By their own son.
Right.
Like, that's got to be – like, it's not like he just had a heart attack and died, and Trump could have come out and said, you know what, it was his liberal policies and his craziness that clogged up his arteries. Okay, that's a little bit different.
So to your point, I guess what you were saying is, to kind of get it back on track, though, would be J.D. Vance. He might have some of that baggage, but that's minimal.
I think he's Trump's policies without the crassness.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of it.
I got you.
And I think that it's going to be very, very challenging for someone to compete with J.D. Vance in 2028, or at least let's go 2027, where those midterms are happening. The
26
primaries. No, I was trying to talk about the primaries. So let's go to 2027, where those primaries are happening. Then, in the debates and who everybody's jumping in. It's going to be tough to compete with him. The only thing that they're going to have to hone in on is this stupid Mike Pence crap, which I'm sure that you've heard about, is how he's building up a super PAC.
Yeah, he's got no chance.
Like, dude, it's
especially
over.
Especially
it's
if especially if more and more J6 stuff comes out. Mike Pence has no.
If the economy is half decent. If the economy is half decent, if it's good, J.D. Vance is going to wipe the floor with any Democrat on the debate stage.
But then he said this last night, which was incredible.
Unlike the left, we stand against treating anybody, and I love what Nikki said about this. We don't treat anybody different because of their race or their sex. So we have relegated DEI to the dustbin of history, which is exactly where it belongs. In the United States of America, you don't have to apologize for being white anymore.
Now, the left has lost their mind because he said that. And there are even people out there saying, well, you haven't had to apologize for being white. This is preposterous. It's like,
oh, my God.
What world are
you serious?
I mean, what world have y'all been living in?
There are quotas. If you are a white Christian male, you are the absolute worst of the worst. You are the trash can that the only way that we're going to use you to fill a position is if we are just completely desperate and we have no other person to fill this position. So white men, and really any whites, but I hate to lump in whites because that's going to bring in those crazy white liberal women, Yeah. Let's exclude them because they are, in my opinion, the anus of society, And so,
what do you mean the liberal
White liberal women are
right.
the anus of society.
Wow. Okay. All right. Didn't have that one on my bingo card
Yep.
this morning.
Didn't have that one. I didn't pre-plan that
Well,
one.
hey,
because
look.
that's just the way they are.
You had that, to your point, that Kentucky state representative Democrat that was going on about how, the education reforms they're trying to do in Kentucky, they're trying to get rid of DEI, and she went on this whole long rant about how, well, white kids they need space to feel bad about themselves, and they need to, reflect about their privilege, and we're taking that away from them. And it was, so to your point, I mean,
oh, yeah.
the liberal white women are a big problem. I mean, they've succumbed to the propaganda.
Yeah, because we understand there's two white conservative Christian men sitting at this table talking into these microphones. Can we say, "Oh, you need to shut up. You're black and your voice doesn't matter. Shut up."
No, we cannot.
We cannot say.
I mean, say that.
Well,
but
I mean, I'm saying that, for the purpose of this example. But can I say that, like, hey, you can't have an argument on any of this because you are this race or this sex or whatever. But you can sure say that about white men.
Yeah. Remember you're a white male. I remember that classic Antifa clash. It was back in the day where there was that white guy that was like, you can't say that, you're a white male.
Yeah, and then you see Antifa when they're unmasked.
Yeah.
They're almost all purple-haired whites. Men who have low testosterone. And loud voices.
Here's a really good own. So here's the guy by the name of Fred Wellman over on X, the Democratic candidate for Congress in Missouri's 2nd Congressional District. He responds to J.D. Vance saying you don't have to apologize for being white anymore. He says, I've been a white male for 60 years, and no one has ever asked me to apologize. What effing planet do these weirdos live on? Why is this guy such a dork? To where William Wolf went and found a tweet and said, this you? So this was right after Trump started putting his cabinet in place, and says 2 weeks to make the Joint Chiefs of Staff all white men. Disgusting.
It was earlier this year. It wasn't even like it was a 10-year-old tweet.
Yeah. I mean, these guys don't even understand. They really don't get it.
I've seen where they'll do, like, Defiance L's is a great follow.
Yeah, that's a good one.
On there. And it started out like just, contradicting this stupid dude, Brooklyn Dad Defiant, which I don't even think he's in America. I think it's just like a total whatever. It doesn't matter. Regardless, it started out. And so they'll post all this stuff. And sometimes they'll say, like, how dare the President of the United States call somebody garbage? And then 3 hours later, they will say, all these Republicans in my mentions are absolute garbage.
Yeah.
And you're just like, okay.
It's just insane.
The hypocrisy.
But I want to get to the unity part. This was about the coalition. See, what does he say here? Let's just listen to it. This is
I don't think I've seen this.
With Vance.
Side of you, I mean all of you, each and every one. President Trump did not build the greatest coalition in politics by running his supporters through endless, self-defeating purity tests. He says, make America great again because every American is invited. We don't care if you're white or black, rich or poor, young or old, rural or urban, controversial or a little bit boring, or somewhere in between. People of every faith come to our banner because they know that the America First movement will make their lives better, and they also know that the Democrats don't care about anything other than maybe transing their kids. So if you love America, if you want all of us to be richer, stronger, safer, and prouder, you have a home on this team. I didn't bring a list of conservatives to denounce or to deplatform, and I don't really care if some people out there, I'm sure will have the fake news media, denounce me after this speech. But let me just say, the best way to honor Charlie is that none of us here should be doing something after Charlie's death that he himself refused to do in life. He invited all of us here Charlie invited all of us here for a reason, because he believed that each of us, all of us, had something worth saying, and he trusted all of you to make your own judgment. And we have far more...
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Excited.
essentially, like, trusted you to have the debate, trusted us to figure it out.
Yeah.
We can chew the meat. We can spit out the bones if we don't like them. I mean, this is the coalition that it's not a monolith, and there's plenty of debate, and everyone can have their pet peeve issues. The question is, it's just like we're not the left, though. That's the thing. We're not the left.
Which is why, again, just going full circle, why I had a problem with the post on Truth about Rob Reiner from Trump. I just felt like, okay, this is what we just spent 3 months ripping on the left about.
I see what you're
saying.
saying.
You just spit on a man's grave, and both were murdered. Both were murdered senselessly. Now, one was murdered for political reasons. The other one was murdered because his son reportedly had mental problems.
Yeah, but you're not. But what? You're not a cultist.
I'm not a cultist. I've got
That's what that means.
I've got a problem with something that the President Trump did. Like, I've got a problem with it. And I've got we have shared on this. We've got real problems with how the Epstein thing. Like, we should not have gotten to this point,
Right.
And yet it's still not full transparency with this.
Nope.
We're still getting all this stuff, and you're just like, okay, I disagree with the man that I have voted for. So that doesn't that right there is an indicator that I'm not in a cult. Now, if he were to be eligible to run again in 2028, or J.D. Vance is on there as his heir apparent, I'm voting for J.D. Vance, because I can guarantee you, no matter what J.D. Vance does, unless he completely craps the bed, I'm going to be voting for him, because even if I disagree with 10% of it, I'm going to agree with 90%.
That's right.
Of what he says. And that's unfortunate, because we just have... What's unfortunate is that the left accuses us of being in a cult when they're the ones listening to MSNBC, or whatever it's called now, CNN, and they're believing the BS that's being shoved down their throats.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out where else we go from here. Okay, we had an interesting Tulsi Gabbard moment.
Tulsi sighting. She's been quiet
We have, that's kind of why I thought this was interesting.
Yeah.
So she gave a speech. Listen to what she said.
But what I've seen over these months is that every time they make progress and they move closer and closer to that hope for peace, the warmongers in the deep state step up and try to do everything they can to stop them. Predictably, they use the same old tactics that they've always used. The deep state within the intelligence community weaponizes intelligence to try to undermine progress. They leak it to their friends in the mainstream propaganda media to try to spread this and push a false narrative. They foment fear and hysteria as a way to justify the continuing of the war and their efforts to undermine President Trump's efforts towards peace. And do so specifically in this case in order to try to pull the U.S. military into a direct conflict with Russia, which is ultimately what the EU and NATO want. We cannot allow this to happen. We have to see clearly what's happening before our very eyes and stand united in this cause of peace.
It's a big deal. I mean, it's a lot of what we already know, but...
And that's been her biggest platform forever, these forever wars,
But there are forces that we're not I mean, my goodness, you've got... I love The Last Refuge and Conservative Treehouse, but I mean, they're literally... You go back to Witkoff, when Witkoff was trying to negotiate, the peace with the whole Iran, the Iran situation earlier this year. And they were being given, according to reports, basically fake intel reports on the ground from our own people trying to sabotage the peace process.
Yeah.
And the same thing's going on with Russia and Ukraine. And so that's been my biggest issue, so far, or the biggest question with Trump 2.0 is, can he bring the deep state intel rogue actors to heel? And, I think some people are starting to speculate that one of the ways to do that is to just ignore them and get your own networks. Get your own, where Trump can call up people that he just trusts to tell him what the situation is. Let them give your briefings, but then just know that they're lying to you, which is a heck of a way to run a country. But I mean, I don't know what else you do if it's as big as it is and you can't bring the intel oligarch to heel.
Yeah, it's interesting because what is it? Warner Brothers or whatever is for sale.
Yeah, Netflix is going to buy it.
Netflix is going to buy it, and then Paramount comes in and they offer more, like considerably more money. And the people at Netflix, I'm sorry, at Warner are allegedly saying, "Hey, this Netflix offer is better." And it's like, okay, wait a minute. So who owns Paramount, right? And you start to kind of look through that and walk down the rabbit hole of, okay, well, it's because that's a conservative, and you don't want CNN and other media in the hands of a conservative, which shows that all of your mindset is rage bait. It is build up the public against one side or whatever, and CNN has been one of your arms to do it. CNN, if you remember, Paul, back in the 90s was
it was not what it is today.
It's not what it was, and we're seeing all of that, and they're not as impactful as they were, but that's because of something. And I just look at it and I say, all of these deep state actors, the people trying to sabotage Paramount from jumping in there, these are people who hate Trump more than they love the United States. And if that's the case, then you're dealing with, it's the same as dealing with a white liberal woman. Okay? You are dealing with someone who is irrational. You hate Trump more than you love the United States. And yet you're unfortunately in a position of power to be able to do some stuff with these deep state actors. Even if they're not directly, they've got somebody on their payroll who is. And sabotaging the deals on the ground in the Middle East. I mean, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
That's treason.
Yep.
It's because you hate Trump more than you love the United States.
So that brings me to the subject of arrests. On our group text that, we've been going back and forth. And Eric's not able to be with us. By the way, this is our last show before Christmas, just so everybody knows. Merry Christmas out there. Family starts rolling into town tomorrow. And
it's a chaotic week.
It's very short, abbreviated week. But so I've been like, where are the perp walks? Where are the rest? You and me are both in that exact same vein. But I realize, and I'm not doing this to gaslight this audience into thinking that your expectations for arrests and perp walks are unreasonable. It is perfectly reasonable, I think, for us to have these expectations, because when we see evil, it should be punished. And the question is will it happen? And I am of the opinion now, after talking to you and going through back our conversations about why 2020 never got properly adjudicated at the time, maybe it will.
Well, we're seeing a lot more information coming
we
out
are,
with Fulton County,
and so I've got kind of a black pill, white pill dichotomy here on this, because I'm torn and going back and forth, because I think the courts are so corrupt that I've been kind of telling myself there's not going to be any arrests. It's just there's not going to be any accountability. There's not going to be any arrests, and so then I'm trying to think, okay, well, if that's the case, other than the fact that it's a massive demoralization operation, it's going to be very bad for the midterms and everything else. What comes next if that's the case? And I don't really know, but I'm trying to formulate this in my head. But I think with Dan Bongino calling it quits at the FBI, okay, he's announced that he's not going to do this anymore, starting in January. He's going to go back to podcasting. What a giant missed opportunity. And I know there's people out there that are, oh, he did a great job. Come on. Telling us that he saw the tapes, Epstein killed himself, and then they released the tapes and there's minutes missing. Come on. And what objectives? And I'm sure he has stories. I'm sure he has a side that would be very convincing, and maybe we'll hear it if his NDA allows him to talk about it.
Sure.
I'm not saying that the guy is totally anathema. I'm not saying he was in on it. I don't know that, but I can objectively say, like, he was our guy, and we're sending our guy into a place where he's going to reform the FBI. Everybody loves him, and so then you have to ask the question to the intelligence community, to the FBI, like, are these organizations salvageable? Do they just need to be abolished?
Oh gosh, I mean, it's hard for me to believe that the FBI, has I mean, when we hear about, here locally, we hear about a individual having their house raided by the FBI. So what does that tell us? Like, oh, it's serious, right? It's real serious stuff, and that is true. That is true, but it's also something like, okay, could whatever is being done by the FBI, could that be done by the state police? Could that be done by, the U.S. Marshals, whoever? Like, I don't know, and maybe you can help me with this. I'm not sure who the U.S. Marshals are under. Like, I don't know how that all plays out. I don't know the hierarchy, but suffice it to say that the FBI, as valuable as some of their stuff is, all of that stuff can be done, in my opinion, with as long as the states are communicating. You can do that within your state, and if there's something that is interstate, then you just communicate with outside agencies. And it would also eliminate this partisan rot, in my opinion, that an FBI agent or an FBI field office in a blue state does not like what is happening in a red state, or a person. Rudy Giuliani has got to be one of the biggest. It is absolute criminal what has happened to Rudy Giuliani and some others who were questioning the election that we're now seeing, especially with this Fulton County stuff that's coming out, that was stuff that we already knew. That the 2020 election was completely stolen, and it's because you have blue state and blue voting FBI agents investigating this stuff. These agencies that are infected with this rot.
Communists. They're communists.
And it's like, okay, well, we're going to take them out. We're going to take this person out because we don't like them. Rudy Giuliani was America's mayor, right? And I didn't mean to go down this tangent about Rudy Giuliani, but he's only one of countless examples that you could come up from the conservative side. And so, is there value to the FBI? Until you can prove to me that it's nonpartisan and not full of rot, zero value.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the FBI, especially over the last 10 years at the very least, just they exist to cover up crimes. They don't exist to solve them. And if you go even further down the rabbit hole, in many cases the FBI are doing the crimes and then investigating them and then covering them up. I mean, they're very much. I mean, they've been overrun by communists. I mean, this is the issue.
Yeah,
where communists in our Justice Department, in our FBI, in our Intel, like they've had decades to recruit a certain type of person that fits a certain type of metric, and that person, that matrix that they align with, is not about freedom. It's about totalitarianism. That's who these guys are.
We saw that with January 6th, but I'm going to give you an example. If you're a leftist that's happened upon this and you haven't turned us off yet, I want you to ask yourself this question. Or listen, if you're a conservative and you're in a conversation with a leftist, how about this? That's a more valuable thing. If you're watching this, if you're a conservative, and they say that these government agents are nonpartisan or this or that, or all of this stuff is valid, I want you to say, do you remember when the FBI raided the house of a preacher, a pastor, whatever you want to call him, at his specific congregation, because he was praying in front of an abortion clinic? They didn't just go to his house and arrest him. They didn't just go to his house and talk to him. They raided his house. He had 6 children, if I remember the story correctly, and they raided it pre-dawn. The FBI comes in there full SWAT. You want to tell me that the preacher praying outside of your precious abortion clinics was such a threat that he had to have his house raided by the FBI. You are in a cult if you believe that was justified. You're garbage. You're irredeemable in my eyes. So if you're a conservative and you're talking to a leftist, I want you to ask them that. Should a preacher have his house raided by the FBI for praying in front of an abortion clinic? Because I don't think that a rational person would believe that they should.
Yeah, you're talking about Mark Hawk, who was later acquitted. By the way.
He was acquitted because because a jury for the most part is nonpartisan.
It was a terrible situation.
It was ridiculous. Were there any charges other than he's praying out there? Like they were called it like intimidation or something like that?
It was just about the FBI being used as Joe Biden's personal police force. But that's just a phrase that it's just the deep state's personal police force at this point. And so you send in Kash Patel, you send in Dan Bongino. Bongino now is going to go back to podcasting. Okay, great. But it's this whole thing, it's such a black pill. It is just such an absolute black pill.
So, just seeing on the screen here that our listeners can't, it's called the FACE Act. So it's Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act. Also called the FACE Act. And so he was arrested in 2022 under Joe Biden's FBI. So this is Merrick Garland. He had his house raided, and he was arrested because he prayed in front of an abortion clinic. And you want to tell me that the FBI is nonpartisan? Do you want to tell me that the FBI under Joe Biden was not, weaponized? Bull. You were living under, and there's been some stuff even I've heard under the Trump administration with the FBI that I don't like. But
I've heard of some threats about how we'll investigate your staffer if you keep going forward with this line of inquiry. It's like
BS.
What? Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
I know.
Either the staffer committed a violation
or not,
a crime or not. But someone praying in front of an abortion clinic, how the hell is that a violation of the this? It's not. He wasn't blocking it. When I think of freedom of access to enter a facility, I think of somebody blocking it, i.e., people taking up, with their protest and going out on an interstate and blocking an interstate. Do conservatives do that, Paul?
No.
Do they? I've never seen a conservative go and block an interstate because they're pissed off. It's always the left. And there will be people, we saw this in Memphis, when there were protests on the bridge and there were ambulances that couldn't get to the med in Memphis, potentially to save the person's life that is in the back of that ambulance. Mm-hmm. The sirens were going because they were blocking, because they were pissed off about George Floyd. Shut up, man.
Yep.
I could go on and on about that stupid, complete criminal drug addict who held a gun to a pregnant lady's belly to get her to rob her, and you want to sit here and have 3 funerals for him, including a golden casket? You can kiss my ass. I don't care about George Floyd. Should the police officer have kneeled on his neck? No. Put him in the back of the car. But the whole I can't breathe. Dude was saying it for a long time before he was on the ground. He was in the back of the car saying he couldn't breathe because he was all hopped up on fentanyl. And the what do you want to call it? The autopsy. Yeah, the toxicology and the autopsy and all that stuff said that Derek Chauvin didn't kill him, but Derek Chauvin is in prison.
Yeah.
Because of public pressure and all of this stuff. And people in Memphis were blocking the bridge to protest. You can kiss my ass.
Well, the ambulance thing was a really big deal, blocking life-saving medical treatment. But yeah, to your point, we protest differently.
Sorry for the TV audience for my choice of words.
So to kind of get back to the black pill about no arrests, not going to happen. Dan Bongino exiting the FBI. What a disappointment that whole situation, I think, is objectively. So I'm not saying there weren't good things that we're done. I'm not saying that, he's not going to have some victories to talk about or whatever. But
I mean, his first show back is going to be interesting.
It will be. It will be. And are we going to get honesty, or are we going to get NDA? What are we going to get? How much is he going to be able to actually explain?
I think it'll be a failed moment if he is not gloves off.
He's got to be like, it's unfixable, folks.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I did everything I can. It's unfixable.
Yeah.
But I don't understand how. I mean, so that's the thing with Dan. I mean, we know what he used to sound like, and then we would watch interviews with him as the deputy director of the FBI, and the guy looks like he's in a deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
It looks like he's lying. I'm sorry.
I agree.
He looks like he doesn't believe what he's saying.
Have you ever watched a Dan Bongino show and disagreed with anything that he's ever said?
I'm sure I've disagreed, but
at least thought that he was lying?
Yeah. No, he seemed to believe that the pipe bomber was an inside job, and then of course he comes out and they think, no, they got this other guy, this basement dweller. It wasn't who Steve Baker said it was. By the way, Steve Baker of the Blaze is fighting for his life. Apparently, is in the hospital with some heart problems. The guy that broke the other pipe bomb story that they took down.
See, the cynic in me is like,
somebody
check his food.
I thought the same thing, man.
Check his food. Check his surroundings. See, we shouldn't be that way, Paul.
I know.
Anytime somebody is like a whistleblower and they end up dead, you're just like,
I wish I could believe the government.
Yeah.
But we're to the point where we can't, and it's the most reasonable perspective to take to not at this point, even when you send your own guys in and they come out and they tell you Epstein killed himself. I've seen the tape, but then the tape was missing 1 minute. Then we find out it was missing like 3 minutes. How do you do that? I want that explanation from Dan Bongino.
Why did they think nobody was going to notice that, Paul? You have a missing minute or two or three.
The only way that Bongino in that instance is like free and clear is if he was literally just believing what was put in front of him, and then that somebody else was, here it is, and so you're only as good as the experts around you. But it just kind of shows you like how bad it is.
Right.
These people that are supposed to be your aides or helping you are setting you up for national embarrassment, or you're in on it. And that's what I said from the beginning. I said, with Cash and Bongino, these guys are going in to reform something that may not be able to be reformed. And if you either succeed or you either give us the arrest, succeed, or everyone's going to think you're in on it.
Yeah.
And those were the stakes.
Right. It was either succeed or die trying, and not literally, but figuratively die trying. And the die trying should be enough to keep people like me at bay. But then you've got this third option of that is, we don't believe you.
Yeah, I know.
We don't believe you, to your point. And so I'm even disappointed in Cash Patel. So he went on Joe Rogan and he was talking about the Epstein stuff. And he was talking about, there's no client list, there's no this or there's no that. Well, what the hell are they redacting right now, Paul?
Yep.
What are you redacting? I'm getting fired up about it. I can't stand being...
We don't want a government that protects pedophiles.
Dude, I tell my 14-year-old son all the time, I'm like, son, you can make mistakes. There's going to be a consequence and all that stuff. But if you lie to me, it's going to be way worse. Way worse. I cannot stand for a man to look in my face and just flat out lie to me. I can't stand it. And I'm telling you right now, when I watched Cash Patel on Joe Rogan, when I've watched some of the Dan Bongino stuff, I'm like, I think you're lying to me. I feel like you're lying to me right now. And with Cash Patel on Joe Rogan saying that there is no client list, and I'm like, okay, well, then we should get some unredacted stuff, because the victims themselves are coming out saying, release this. Release it all. All the victims that we know of, you've got some that I'm sure are in different countries and all of that stuff, but the United States victims, all of those have come out and said, hey, look, they were on the steps with Marjorie Taylor Greene. We want all of this exposed. Expose it all. They get this chance to do it, and what are we getting? We're getting redactions. Bull. I'm so mad about that crap. It makes us look...
And it looks so bad.
So terrible,
it
Paul.
Looks so bad, and there's no way to even sugarcoat it. All because of Pam Bondi. She did this whole thing to herself, and now
it gives the left so much fuel that they shouldn't have to throw on this fire.
You're exactly right. I mean, there's literally no sugarcoat. All right, now we'll try to do a white pill. Okay.
Okay.
hang on. So our friend of the show, Dr. Andrew Paquette, who has this great blog called the Zark Files, wishing everybody a Merry Christmas, he says. Andrew Paquette, for those of you that didn't catch that episode, he is an algorithm expert. He exposed the algorithms used to rig our elections alongside the Smartmatic software that we now know originated from Venezuela. But so I was reading his latest post, and he was giving a situation rep on election integrity. So here's a little bit. This is just a different angle from me trying to prepare myself for no arrests, no ever, just whatever, versus this. He says, I keep hearing that this is moving in the right direction, and then a week or two later see something happen to support the claim. He says, this shows that what I hear is at least connected closely enough with what's actually happening that it can be reasonably relied upon. The most recent news on this is that the DOJ has sued 22 states for refusing to turn over their voter rolls for examination. By the way, those voter rolls are something that you and I could get.
Sure.
All we have to do is ask for them. The DOJ is asking for them, and they're just saying no. But we could get them as private citizens.
Yes, and so you're just like, okay, well, if this is a registered voter, where anybody, to your point there, where like a campaign accesses those, like, hey, you voted for us 2 years ago, can we count on your vote again?
Yeah.
Right, like
that's all that they're asking for.
100% it's going to happen.
Is the states say this would violate the privacy of their voters, but that didn't stop them from handing over the exact same data to non-government ERIC system or to private individuals who study the rolls like me. On this basis alone, the refusals look very suspicious. Separately, Fulton County, Georgia, is being sued for election-related malfeasance in 2020. In those proceedings, Fulton County Attorney Ann Brumbaugh admitted that about 315,000 votes in 2020 didn't have a proper chain of custody due to missing signatures on tabulator tapes. This has been reported as an admission that 315,000 votes were illegally certified in Georgia. I'm told by multiple sources that the administration is well aware of my research, though I haven't been contacted directly by them. My understanding is that my work and that of other researchers are just more pieces of a very complex puzzle the DOJ is putting together. For the best result, they have to do it themselves. That is fine with me as long as they solve the problem. He says prognosis, trending in the right direction. Dozens of lawsuits launched by DOJ, admissions made, no resolutions yet. The DOJ seems to know this has to be resolved before the midterms next year and are working to achieve that. So that is Dr. Andrew Paquette. I think his white pill. He's saying that they've got to get this done. He says, he's basically saying, I think they are going to get all this done before the midterms.
Well, a couple of things here. Number one, his Substack is a great follow there on the Zark Files. And he is Dr. Andrew, remind me his last name? Paquette. Thank you. And so I've read his some of his stuff in the past, and he's just spot on with this thing. But I number one, I want to say, hey, protect yourself, doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Because if when you start exposing evil, right, you worry about that. But then number two, I just go back to this thing that I always say anytime that we talk about election integrity, Paul, and that is, if you believe that Donald Trump is the literal second coming of Adolf Hitler, what links won't you go to ensure that he is out of office? Mm-hmm. And so you're like, well, there's no, it's the most secure. I mean, the absolute idiots who said that 2020 was the fairest and most secure election that we've ever had in our lifetime. I've got a bridge to sell you, right? Like you are absolutely moronic in that statement. And I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. If you believe that any election is secure, let alone 2020 that had record 81 million votes for a dude that couldn't put two sentences together, can't read a teleprompter, and you believe that, you are a moron.
Yeah.
You are a mindless shill for the deep state.
Kind of transitioning here because we were running out of time. Eric Haynes and I have had several discussions last week about favorite Christmas movies, that sort of thing. You got a favorite Christmas movie?
I'm old school, man. I really like the classic A Christmas Carol, and I like the old ones.
Okay.
So I like the 1930s, 1940s Christmas Carol, and then of course I love It's a Wonderful Life.
Okay. well, It's a Wonderful Life. So not to. I know Ben Shapiro was, we were talking about him at the beginning, but this clip, I thought it was AI, but it's real from what I can tell.
Okay.
Where Ben Shapiro is kind of on the side of Potter, saying he's like a reasonable economist when he was giving a movie review of It's a Wonderful Life. This is
I've not seen this.
Could
I
not
have no
believe
idea.
this.
Alrighty, It's a Wonderful Life, which isn't just the best Christmas film, it may be the best film. It's a Wonderful Life. It's an amazing, amazing movie. Obviously, it requires very little introduction. You got Jimmy Stewart, you got Lionel Barrymore, and a cast of thousands. And the entire film is a play on A Christmas Carol. The first half of the film is really, really dark. And people forget how dark the performance that Jimmy Stewart gives in this film is.
Yeah, it's
so
an
Jimmy
incredible
Stewart
movie.
was famous for being sort of slapsticky and very Jimmy Stewart. In this film, he gets angry, and when he plays angry, it actually works. Jimmy Stewart, underrated actor, and Jimmy Stewart is this guy who feels hemmed in by life, and he's started this bank, and now he's lost all the money because his dumb uncle, who's a drunk idiot, has lost all the cash, and Lionel Barrymore is taking advantage of him, and he thinks about killing himself, and he's convinced not to by being shown what the world would be like had he not been born. And then, of course, the community comes around to save him. It is the ultimate Christmas movie. It's about forgiveness. It is about community. It's about the unseen contributions that we all make to the lives of the people around us. Now, also, Lionel Barrymore is correct. So on a financial level, the villain of this piece is actually the hero, because if Jimmy Stewart actually gets his way, all of Bedford Falls collapses in the subprime mortgage crisis. Basically, Jimmy Stewart keeps giving out loans without proper checking into the credit history of the people he's giving loans to based on his sort of assessment of their own personal viability financially. Lionel Barrymore is much more by the numbers. Lionel Barrymore is a better banker, and that local bank probably goes under. So
Stereotypes exist because people reinforce them every single day.
Yeah.
Number one. Number two, we saw what that reality looked like.
Yeah.
Saloons and bars and Pottersville was not a good place to live.
Yes. What stereotype are you talking about, Paul?
The Potter stereotype. I'm just telling you.
You wonder why a Jewish man named Ben Shapiro would agree.
Well,
with
he's like,
Mr.
well, he's
Potter?
he's a really good banker. I don't. But this has been making the rounds. I thought it was fake. I thought it was AI. But
so the issue there is that if you go back and watch that movie, it's not that Mr. Potter was just a businessman. He was frustrated because it was taking away from his slums, right?
Yeah.
And it was, you're getting these people out of poverty, getting them out of my slums, and you're putting them in this house, and
you're treating them like human beings.
Correct. And what did we have here? And those people showed their appreciation, other than the first guy when there's the run at the bank. The first guy that comes in, I'll take $262. And he's like, no, come on now. How much do you need? He goes, I've got $262 in here. That's how much I'm going to take, or whatever. And then, of course, everybody else comes in, and they're like, I'll take $20.
Can I have $17.50?
$17.50. And he hugs her and kisses her, whatever. So, but all of those individuals, other than that tool at the first, were looking at it and saying, hey, had it not been for George Bailey and this savings and loan here, then I wouldn't have a house. Mm-hmm. And we saw that at the very end. So, Ben, you meet every stereotype here of the greedy Jew in the back here with the stuff, man. You're like, come on, dude.
I mean,
like,
the review was not that bad up until the end. You're like, well, I just do have to say that, the villain of the movie is actually a really good banker. It's like, yeah, but he's the villain of the movie. Does that mean really good bankers are villains?
Yeah, he finds out that he's in possession of the
$8,000.
He stole it.
He stole the money.
Ben's like, that's what I would have done.
His cousin, his drunk uncle, misplaced it, but he.
Come on, Ben.
Literally, he was a thief.
No way, man. Like you that's not the hill you want to die on, Ben Shapiro.
Making up rumors about Violet Bick and Jimmy Stewart. Anyway, Merry Christmas, Rob. I really appreciate
Merry Christmas
it.
to you. Yeah. Looking forward to a great 2026.
Amen.
Where we're hopefully going to have a good midterm, and so
it's going to be good.
Yeah.
Well, Merry Christmas, Rob. Really appreciate you being a co-host with me here these last, I think, about 6 months as we've been doing this. It's been great.
It's been great. It's been great. I enjoy being here for sure.
That's all the time that we have. It's our last show before Christmas. We're going to be scheduled to be back here a week from today. And just want to say God bless everybody out there watching, and enjoy celebrating this incredible season with your family. And remember that, if it wasn't for Christ and him in essentially invading, condescending into this world, we would have no hope. And he is the hope of all the universe. And Merry Christmas to everybody out there watching.